welcome back to Morning Cafe. So much of feedback still trickling in. We'll be sampling that as we proceed with the show. But importantly, we now cross over to the current affairs segment. We expound some more some of the issues that we've touched on the newspaper review, and equally some more that we have not touched on. So welcome on board once again. And joining me this morning is Michael Agwanda, who's a political analyst, and Anita Mbai, who's equally a political analyst. So Anita is with me here in studio. Yes, we've ensured that we've maintained the social distance aspect, so we are okay, right, Anita? Absolutely. Yeah. And of course, Mike Agwanda joins us live via Skype so that we can expound some more on these. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You're well, Mike?
I'm very well. Nice to see you.
And thank you so much for finding time.
Yeah.
So yes, of course, we cross over to the current affairs, and we start off with the aspect of Kirinyaga. I think before I went for a break, I touched on the key people or key figures that we'll be talking about, the ladies on a board. We always talk about empowerment of the ladies and, ensuring that we push them to the leadership positions. But even as we push them there, they still, some of them that are mad or alleged to be involving in matters, corruption, issues that are not so good. To some point, this has gotten people questioning whether indeed we need to pull this affirmative action so that we encourage our ladies to take the leadership positions, especially the women seat or position has been questioned for the longest of time. People arguing that maybe there's no point of us having the women rep, position. But the question is just how much are the women themselves doing towards proving themselves, towards proving to the world that indeed there is need to have women leadership. There is need to embrace women leadership. So, of course, let's expound some more on what has been taking center stage in Kirinyaga County. A brief for Anne Waiguru. And, of course, we can pick that particular story if we have it, Mr. Director, so then we can come to expound some more on the same. On Kirinyaga. All right, so as we take a look, as we wait for that, let's come to you, Anita. And here we are. Are we ready? All right, let's listen into that and then come back and expound some more.
Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru appearing before the Senate Committee on Devolution under the leadership of Moses Kajwang via Zoom together with the Office of the Control of Budget has said there is a dire need to resolve the standoff in the county for better service delivery.
We have critical services to provide such as healthcare. We have no oxygen. We have no medicine in hospitals right now. We don't have any supplies, and we need also to pay salaries. So it's very critical that this matter is resolved soonest possible.
The Control of Budget, Dr. Margaret Nyakango, in her contribution said the County Assembly of Kirinyaga failed to comply with issues highlighted by her office.
When we did our analysis, and that was way before these things started happening, we highlighted certain issues which we communicated to the county. And apparently, the same issues were then picked by the assembly, but I dare say they were then misused to make certain changes. After the High Court temporarily ordering the County Assembly not to authorize withdrawal of monies from the County Revenue Fund, Dr. Nyakango said it will be complicated for the county to get 50% of its expenditure budget to continue giving service to the citizens. However, with an injunction in place, Chairman, I wish to inform you that the matter gets a little complicated because the only way the county will get the vote on account is through a court order.
To resolve the county standoff, the Senate Committee on Devolution will meet Kirinyaga County Assembly representative on Wednesday. Joash Onsare, TV47, Nairobi.
Coming to you, Michael Agwanda, this was bound to happen, so to speak, that, Anne Waiguru will find it so hard to govern Kirinyaga as it stands. And, at some point in time, they said, in as much as the Senate will save you, there will be need for you to go out there and speak to your MCAs and try and talk to them and tell them that, what's important is the development of Kirinyaga. But it looks like the MCAs are not willing to discuss this. They're not willing to have this conversation. And clearly, they're focused on making it rough for Anne Waiguru.
Linda, Anne Waiguru is one lucky human being.
Yeah.
And I really thank God for her that she's been able to ascend to that position.
Yeah.
But what we are being told is Anne Waiguru is not recognizing or appreciating the work of our MCAs or members of county assemblies. You cannot possibly run county assembly or the county like your own home or domestic home. You must be able to work with members of county assembly because there are rules and laws put together to have the county assembly do what they're supposed to do and to have the executive also do what they're supposed to do. Anne Waiguru is leading the executive section of the county, but that cannot do well if you do not work hand in hand with the county assembly and have great respect for them. As such, she's having great mistrust from the county assembly. And what they're saying is she has no respect for them. It is not possible to run a county without respecting the county members of, members of assembly and the MCAs for that reason. If she thinks she can bypass the MCAs and do things as she wish, it is not going to be easy for her. The Senate might have given her just a little opportunity to breathe. But if she does not recognize that these people are also elected, the MCAs in Kirinyaga are also elected by the people, then what Anne Waiguru is literally saying is, I don't want to run this county. I want to go and run my own house. Because if you want to run the county assembly, the county, you must be able to work with the assembly. Well, let me tell you, there are 3 or 4 responsibilities of the county assembly. 1 is oversight. 2 is legislation, and 3 is also to ensure that they pass laws that governs the county. But most importantly is they must also be able to pass every decision that is made by the executive in the assembly. If that is not done, then you'll be reading from different script, and the sufferer in this case are the people of Kirinyaga, and not even Anne Waiguru, not even those MCAs. Let me give it another perspective. If the MCAs are not seen to be doing anything, they will go home. And therefore, I think they put their foot down on the ground and they're saying, Anne Waiguru, you're not going to send us home by your mistakes, by the things you're not doing in this county. And for that reason, we want to make noise and let our electorates know that you are the one that is causing us not to do our job. And I tell you, the people will buy it because they've stood their grounds and they're saying, Anne Waiguru must go.
So if the people buy into this, Michael Agwanda, and the MCAs equally come out to prove that this is a thing. She was vindicated by a Senate, at least, that body that would have been the determinant factor of her survival or not. And, being vindicated, we can, the MCAs are left with no choice but to work with her in as much as they keep pushing for, the world to get to realize that probably she's done some mistakes here and there. Isn't this then an undoing to the common Mwananchi, to the people of Kirinyaga? Because if they cannot work together, or if she cannot work together with the MCAs, then it means the people are the ones who are going to suffer. At this point, wouldn't it have been wise for maybe the MCAs to take a chill pill and you swallow this, even as they do it, amicably, but focus much first on addressing the issues of the people of Kirinyaga, because the politic, and at the end of the day, this one derails the activities of the county. Looking at this stalemate of the budget that we're talking about right now, this is budget, this is money that is supposed to be out there working for the people of Kirinyaga. Anita.
Absolutely. I think that the MCAs are doing the right thing in that they are exercising their duty in terms of articulating the policies.
Yes.
And when you look at Kirinyaga, it's very important that they sort of find a middle ground whereby they can be able to work and deliver on the people of Kirinyaga.
Right.
Because when there's a lot of stalemate, the common Mwananchi tends to suffer. So the best thing for Kirinyaga would be to find a common platform whereby they can absolutely try to iron out their grievances so that we can have the common wananchi.
According to them, the only way their grievances are going to be ironed out is if Waiguru is out of the seat, a majority of them for that particular matter. So what does it speak, one, about the leadership of women, and two, just how much, of course, the people of Kirinyaga should have on the current government or the current county government that is there?
First of all, when it comes to women leadership, Linda, I think women have come a long way. And when we look at, of course, Governor Waiguru and many other women leaders, they've really tried the best they can, but then you realize sometimes women are really sabotaged. Because trust me, Linda, if it was a man in the same situation, there would be a little bit
of leniency.
Yes, there would be a little bit lenient on how things are handled. Right. So I feel like yes, there are problems in Kirinyaga, but then at the same time, it's also good to appreciate how far women have come and also try to support the current women leaders. Because when I also look at Kitui, you also had Ngilu facing the same issues. Yeah. Yes, we are not saying that the issues are not there; they are, Linda, but it looks like women are under attack, if I can say. Right. So it's important for us to recognize the women leadership has come, but then at the same time we also have an opportunity to improve on that. Yes.
All right. So what are the likelihoods then that the Senate is going to solve this stalemate? As it stands, anyway, Senate has an issue of solving the revenue bill or the revenue sharing aspect of it of the different counties. So what is the guarantee then that they're going to fix this one over different counties and even address this one at the level of Kirinyaga County? Michael Agwanda.
One thing is, I have to say that indeed Anita has said that women are under attack. I totally disagree with that. Right. I don't think women are under attack in this case. If you look at the issues that are being raised by Kirinyaga and Kitui, they are issues, the fundamental issues that need to be addressed by the county, and that specifically in Kirinyaga. The county assembly are saying very clearly that Anne Waiguru is not consulting them. Anne Waiguru does not respect them. Now that in itself is a serious matter that needs to be looked into. If the governor is being alleged to have no respect for the county assembly, you cannot in turn say that the women are under attack. That to me is the cheapest way of looking at matters in regards to women leadership. We know that women, Margaret Thatcher was the Prime Minister of United Kingdom, and she worked terribly well. And many other women leaders are there in the world. I don't think, therefore, we can say that it's only African women that are under attack. We know that African women are heading international organizations, including UN, organizations, and for that reason, and they've worked terribly well with the people that are under them. I really think that when it comes to politics, it is about give and take. And in this case specifically, when we're talking about the Senate, I think that having the Senate rule that indeed the accusation against Anne Waiguru did not meet the threshold for her to be impeached is literally saying, go back and work with the people you don't like, but find a way on how you want to work with them. That's what the Senate is saying. Now the question is Anne Waiguru able to calm down and recognize that indeed there are leadership that I must work with in the county assembly? If she does not recognize that, she will not see it well. She will not see the light of the day. There is also a huge assumption that Anne Waiguru is being protected from the central government by people who are very powerfully behind her, and of course with the BBI. That to me I find as a lame excuse. The whole thing is the assembly is saying that we need to have a discussion with this lady called Anne Waiguru, who is our governor, for the benefit of our county. But Anne Waiguru is not stretching her hand further and saying, can we build a truce here? If anything, she's keeping on to blame. You remember when she was in the Senate, she was actually blaming some underhand dealing. Some people would not like her for that reason. No, I don't think the county assembly cares so much about that. They care about being organized, and they care about sitting around the table in the interest of the
So does she stand a chance of convincing them otherwise?
Correct. Correct. If she had called a meeting soon after that and said, ladies and gentlemen, let's agree on these matters, and I want to sit with you around the table so that we can have a situation where we can develop our county. She's not done that. It's not in record that she has actually called these people and said that I want us to air these views out and see where the problem is so that we can work way forward. I mean, she's really difficult for that reason, and in this case, I will go by the county assembly, regardless of whether she says there are underhand dealings and there's political machinations of this and whether there's political interference. I think she's not done what she's supposed to do. Let her call the county assembly and say, can we have tea together, ladies and gentlemen? Can we agree on this budget in the interest of our people? But if you stick to your gun as if that money is yours and say, this is what I presented at the county assembly, they have nothing. They have absolutely nothing. In fact, one of the things that they're saying is Anne Waiguru has put a lot of money, millions, for her lawyers in the budget. And they're saying, this is not necessary. We need this money in the budget for that reason. Now, those are legitimate questions that you can actually, the executive can sit down with the county assembly and say, how do we now mitigate on this matter and say, well, we had set this amount of money for lawyers or for attorneys, but how about if you find a middle ground? On these matters that you're raising, that I'm not listening to you, what are some of the main issues that you want us to address so that we can discuss? I believe politics is about give and take. If Anne Waiguru is not ready for give and take, she'll find herself, in fact, they've gone to court, the Kirinyaga County Assembly have gone to court, and she'll also find herself being impeached again. And it might not go far, but that sore relationship is going to really hurt the people of Kirinyaga. Let me tell you, already COVID-19 is hurting every corner of this country. Now, if you add it again to a non-functional county, what's going to happen? We have no time. Come next year, Linda Alela, I promise you, there will be no development. There will be politics, and these politicians will be looking into how do I get elected now. Time is now. If she cannot reach out to these people, then it will be very difficult for her to even be re-elected if she wants to be the next governor again.
And as we drop this particular case, maybe we'll come back to you, Anita, and the question then would be, how much of a lesson can our governors or the rest of the governors, because the talk of impeachment has been rife across different counties, so how much of a lesson and how quick can they pick from the scenario in Kirinyaga so at least they're able to solve it themselves? Maybe Gilu should see something, read something, probably try and have a conversation with the MCAs when, as early as now, and the rest of the governors that have been, mentioned as, possible, of course, figures for impeachment.
I think for them, first of all, it's very important to look at the issues that are being aired and issues that would make them, issues that are affecting the people and try to probably rectify on them. And also trying to, of course, patch up on the issues, especially to do with, of course, revenue, corruption issues that are happening in the county. I think looking towards that can be...
That can be a good thing.
Yes.
All right, on that particular point, let's cross over to the next subject of discussion. And this is in regards to COVID-19, now that Michael Ogwenda has mentioned it. And I think we need to constantly remind ourselves that, COVID is here with us. And the ravages are going to be way beyond what we can manage in the event that we do not look at how we can salvage this at an early stage. So South Africa, has suffered a super surge of COVID-19 and, recorded thousands and thousands of COVID-19 cases in a single day. This, of course, is something that, instills fear in many of us and gets us asking ourselves, just as, we've always said that, let's push the government towards easing some restrictions that have been put on board. It looks like, easing the restrictions is just not the ultimate solution to addressing the issues that we'd be facing. And now I come to you, Michael Ogwenda. The cases in South Africa, do you suppose they should serve as a lesson to the rest of Africa? And maybe, or the rest of the continent, and maybe we should just have our leaders rethinking what it is that they're doing in terms of strategies of, first of all, easing the restrictions and, easing the lockdowns, and most importantly, dealing with COVID-19.
Linda, indeed, the numbers are high in South Africa. I think I was reading that of all African statistics on COVID-19, South Africa has more than 50% of all the cases in Africa. That shows you that it's a huge number. The question is, did South African government do the right thing to avoid the contraction of COVID-19 to its citizens? I think they did. Another question, the fundamental question that people are asking is this going to be a replica in other African countries? I think yes. We will have high numbers.
Let me interject a bit, and the argument on ground, and this argument of the Africans, that is the black people, and also the whites, the fact that maybe the whites are more affected or are likely to be affected more with COVID-19 is still coming up, and the argument is that yes, we're witnessing this in Africa. We're talking about bearing the 5th largest COVID-19 case, of course, in the global fraternity, and the 5,000 or 5,000 plus deaths registered so far. So the argument is that it's because South Africa has very many, white South Africans for that matter. Could it be the case? Or we're just trying to, play a blind look on this one that is going to cost us huge?
There are many reasons why Africa, and of course black African countries, have been having low numbers. One of them is, in fact, not just low numbers, but even low death cases here. And one of the reasons is that we have a very young continent. Majority of our citizens in Africa are younger population. When you look at the European countries, most of the population are actually older population. For example, Kenya, about 65% of Kenyans are regarded as the youth. While when you go to the United States and other countries in the US, you find about 65% are actually of older generation for that reason. And so their cases were actually propelled as a result of the advanced age, but also we are looking at also other environmental issues. We have a very warm continent in Africa. And in the West, it's pretty cold for that reason. I think WHO has told us that in colder areas, we've seen more of these cases in colder areas. We've also had issues, a discussion over our immunization, that BCG immunizations have also sort of prevented us a little bit from getting this. But at the end of the day, when you look at the latest revelation about COVID-19, and they're now saying that it's actually the air, then you're left to wonder, is there anybody else who is not going to catch COVID-19 if it's actually in the air, and you can stay in the air for 8 hours, as the latest revelation from WHO. And that to me means that COVID-19 is going to be here with us, and it's going to be a thing that we will treat just like malaria in this country, where basically if you're sick, go to the hospital, get tested, and get treated. The only thing that perhaps the whole world is waiting for is where do we get the vaccines. Once the vaccine comes about and there is medicine for it, I guarantee you that all that will be required by governments and nations is that we will require that every dispensary and every hospital and every clinic should have a testing equipment for COVID-19, so that you walk in there and then you test it for COVID-19 just like malaria. And once you're tested, you can be told, go and buy the drugs across the street and treat yourself.
Let me come in a bit on this one and loop in Anita. You have mentioned that, yes, COVID-19 is going to be here with us. And I think that has been the talk for the longest of time right now. So this, in a way, that acknowledgement that, yes, COVID is here and it's going to be with us, has gotten most governments into that point where they argue, okay, well, if COVID is going to be here, then I'm afraid we cannot keep locking down our activities as we await to see whether we're going to tame COVID. So the best thing to do is probably, just let down our guard. And such has been the occurrence in most African countries and across the world also. We've seen governments deciding to ease restrictions at some point in time. And they're easing restrictions at the point where, the numbers are surging up, on an alarming rate. So what does it speak? What does it tell us? Should we get scared? Should we have governments rethinking this move of easing restrictions?
I think, Linda, when you talk about easing restrictions, that's also a very good move, because again, when you look at the African countries, we also have struggling economies.
Yes. So
if COVID-19 is going to be here with us, then it's best for government to establish a delicate balance on how they could still open, but then at the same time protect their populations. Because Linda, you see, like when we had when the lockdown was on, there's a lot of job loss, there's a lot of desperation among our youth, especially who are very jobless. So I think if government could find a delicate way of balancing on how they could, of course, keep the population safe, but at the same time keep the economy a little bit open, that allows us to be a little bit afloat. Because again, when we remain close, that leads to a lot of suffering.
Reopening of flights, or is just having our flights resuming. One person then asked me, is it a polite way of the government giving COVID-19 a ticket to traverse the different parts of the country? I
don't think so, Linda. First of all, we need the flights in, of course, to keep the tourism industry afloat, because this again also creates a lot of jobs. We of course been asked to take personal responsibility, and I think that's what people should uphold. So keep washing your hands, of course, maintain good hygiene, do the social distancing, and I think either way we're going to, of course, strike a balance on how we could manage this. But total lockdown is a no way go. It's really catastrophic for us as a nation.
You're well conversant with the matters of global economy of Mike Agwanda, coming to you and looking at how much, of course, governments have decided to ease, restrictions at a point in time. And we've seen also, Asad, and we've seen, a reoccurrence of, the COVID-19 cases in this respective government to a point whereby they've decided again to go back to lockdown, or go back to that point where they again uphold these restrictions. One, it is almost impossible for the citizens to just abide by the basic regulations that have been put on board. So when you look at such a scenario, do you agree that maybe this was the best move that was taken by the government, or different governments have taken, in terms of easing restrictions just so they would salvage the economies?
I think for now, Linda, what we need to be talking about is how do we ensure that case fatality ratio is minimized. How do we ensure that the number of people that are going to die from COVID-19 will be fewer than expected? That should be the fundamental question that the government need to be asking for. And if they can't find an answer for that, then they need to know that many will die. That's one. Secondly, I think the lockdown was hugely important. But the lockdown is only hugely important at the beginning. Once you open it up and people interact, and I can tell you for free, when the country opened up, people went to every corner of this place because Kenyans are a traveling nation. We are always visiting our parents and relatives within the communities. But besides that, Kenyans have different homes. 2-3 homes. Some of them have homes in Mombasa, some of them have homes in the village, and they also do farming in different places. And remember that we have a society where if you're not there, your properties will not be well taken care of. So business people have to move from one place to the other. And so when we are having a huge concentration here in Nairobi, and then suddenly people move all over the country, and I've been on this road since the country opened, people have been moving literally, and the roads are busy. That simply means that people have actually spread this disease beyond any imagination, and it will make no logical sense to lock down the country again. If you lock down the country again, what you're simply doing is you're saying, indeed, we know that every county now has huge numbers for this thing, but because the testings are not being done, we will just want to assume that by locking it, we will be saving you from traveling from one place to the other. Let me give you an example where we are having a problem now. Kisumu, our CDC is not able to test COVID-19 now, while in the beginning, they were testing COVID-19. Now they have to bring samples to Nairobi. And if they bring samples to Nairobi, it's no longer the 24-hour turnaround. It is now 42 to maybe 72 hours turnaround, and sometimes even 1 week. We have problems with reagents in this country. They're not having enough reagents. We have problems with actually even the medical officers having the PPE equipment to ensure that they test for COVID-19. Now, if we're talking about Kisumu CDC that was covering the whole of Western Kenya not being able to test COVID-19, what are you trying to tell people? That the only test you can do is in Nairobi, in our influential lab, as well as the private hospitals and clinics, like the private hospitals like Nairobi also. It's not possible to have an epidemic being tested in one or two places in the entire country. So the government need to rethink about the testing positions, the testing stations, and possibly spread this as much as they can so that people are tested very quickly and then the containment is done very quickly. But if you do not have enough testing places and you say, we want to lock up the country, and then you will have people wait for about 1 to 2 weeks to get their results, you're cheating this camp, you're cheating our nation, and you're cheating the nation that you'll be fighting COVID-19 while you're not fighting it. If you don't have the numbers and the figures, you will not be fighting it because the numbers are much bigger. And remember, now you cannot walk into those testing centers and get tested because they will not allow walk-in unless you be referred by a medical doctor. While people want to know their status as much as they can so that they can go home or go to other places knowing that they are COVID-19 free. But if that cannot happen because you can't be tested on a walk-in, then what are you trying to tell the nation? I do not support the argument that we need to lock the country again. Anita has said it very clearly that if you lock the country again, can you imagine a situation basically where even the stimulus package that came in, the COVID-19 money that came in, the people who got it and the people who didn't get it, you don't know. But how many people will lose their jobs that have actually gone back to work, and then suddenly again they have to lose their job? Landlords are not going to allow you in their houses if you don't pay because they've allowed you for 3-4 months. They were expecting that if you did have a job, you should have gone home. And then you come back again for 1 month and then the country is locked again. That doesn't make sense.
Well, all right. Well, that's an interesting way of looking at things. But also, now that we're talking about South Africa, and there's been numerous of meetings, virtual meetings held by the leaders of Africa in trying to chart the way forward of a continental approach to this. Do you suppose they've done well? And asking that brings me to the aspect of Tanzania on how Tanzania is dealing with this. And I don't know. I just don't know. No surge or no cases reported, no anything. Is it because they're not testing, or in real sense there's more than meets their eye?
First of all, when you look at Tanzania, there's been a lot of apathy in that President Magufuli does not acknowledge if there's existence of COVID-19 in the first place. And I think that is very catastrophic because as leaders, when we don't, of course, try to, of course, protect our populations, that is very unfortunate. So Tanzania has also recorded very low cases of COVID-19 because again, there's little or no testing. So I think that has really been unfortunate on the part of Tanzania. And I can really laud Kenya because of the efforts that we, of course, taken. The Ministry of Health has been very, of course, upfront with the COVID-19 situation. And I think Kenya, we are at a good place.
Africa's approach, we saw what the European Union was doing the other day, locking themselves in for days to chart the way forward to ensure that they come up with a strategy for economic recovery after COVID-19 or post-COVID-19. I mean, is Africa's approach just as good? Is there anything that we can bank on in how Africa deals and handles its issues? Absolutely.
I feel like the Africa's handling of COVID-19 has been a little bit, out of place. We've not seen so much cooperation. And when you look at European Union, they of course suffered more cases, but I really commend their style, and I hope that Africa we would really chart a way of probably solving this solution, especially towards the economic recovery.
All right, and that we drop and we cross over to a different subject altogether. Sports CS, that is Amina Mohammed, and who's the candidate of the World Trade Organization, that is Kenya's candidate, Topos, said that she is seeking Washington's backing and expressed some sympathy with its criticism of the global body as she emerges as one of the two reform-minded African female front runners. Now, Amina Mohammed said that a closed-door vetting session last week went really well, and she outlined her platform to steer the body out of crisis from global trade tensions and rising protectionism, and of course to COVID included dive in business. So we take a look at this, and we listen into what, of course, Amina says, and whether she stands a chance, and whether indeed as a country we stand a chance, and what it would mean for us. Let's first of all pick this story and then come back to expand some more on the same.
It's a quest that Sport CS Amina Mohammed is determined to fulfill. Delegates say Mohammed, a 50-year-old minister and former WTO chair, is one of the favorites alongside Nigeria's Ngozi Okonjo to replace Brazil's Roberto Azevedo as Director General, although weeks of campaigning lie ahead. The WTO has never been led by a woman or an African.
I think for me, getting the AB back on its feet would be a priority, because we need, a multilateral system that everybody has confidence in, and that everybody would like to use. We've used it before. All the, the big players have used it before very successfully. So we need to go back to that space.
The United States has paralyzed the appellate body by blocking new judges. In an apparent nod to Washington, she referred to the concerns about the body's overreach.
I think those the concerns that have been raised, they would not have been raised if they did not have solid reason to raise them, and they should be. And there's, I think, evidence that has been provided, and I think it's important that we address that.
The U.S. mission did not immediately respond to a request for a comment. Her supporters, including her current boss, President Uhuru Kenyatta, say she combines deep WTO knowledge with a drive to overhaul its 25-year-old rules. However, she must win over those African countries who have expressed support for Okonjo-Iweala.
So the difference, I think, between me and them is that I have worked this system. I have worked it fully, and not just as a delegate, but as a chair of the different bodies. I have delivered as an ambassador in Geneva. I delivered an amendment to a major, treaty, and I delivered a decent package in Nairobi. I don't think any of them can claim that. They can't claim that, and that's why I believe that I can hit the ground running.
Over the past week, countries have been hosting Geneva cocktail parties to showcase candidates. The WTO eliminates them in batches, starting with those unlikely to win consensus from 164 members. For TV47, my name is Tracy Mokami.
Amina, I just called you Amina. Anita, you come in first on this one. First, before we even take a look at Amina Mohammed, if at all she gets this, she'll be the first woman, first of all, to hold this important office, and probably the first African. What are the chances and prospects for Africa now that we have Nigeria, we have her there?
Absolutely, Linda. I think this is really interesting year for Kenya despite of the pandemic, because again, we had Kenya secure the Security Council for the 2021. Mm-hmm. You've also had other Kenyans like Seda Ogada, who
yes,
of course was appointed the secretary to IMF.
Yeah.
And when it comes to Amina in the WTO, there's a high chance that she's of course going to secure this. She's got an excellent background, serving as a diplomat, and of course also previously serving as at the WTO. And of course, Amina of course represents everything gone right, in women leadership. I'm really confident that she's going to secure this position. And of course, it's also good that it's also going to put Africa on the map, as of course the first woman to lead WTO, and of course the first African. So this is really good. I'm of course very confident of Amina, and she's definitely going to get this. Although of course you also have, of course, Dr. Iwala of Nigeria, who is also a very strong competitor.
Also very strong. I agree.
So these are immense strides in women leadership, and we celebrate, of course, Amina.
Yes, that's much. We celebrate her, and looking in Mike Agwanda, this is not the first time that she's going for this. What will set her apart? What will make her, stand out this time around, differently in comparison to what happened the other time? Or what is it that she did not do last time that probably should carry on this time around for her to stand a chance, even as she pulls the campaign in Geneva?
And Linda, and another question that everybody is asking is, why do we always want Amina Mohamed to be out of this country?
And not anybody else. All right, reminds us of the AU championship. Yes.
That's in a light note. What I want to say, Linda, is indeed when you look at Amina Mohamed, in my time, of course, one of the best foreign affairs ministers we ever had was called the late Dr. Roberto Uko, and he was famed for international accolade and international mobilization. Second to him, in my view, in my lifetime, is Amina Mohamed. During the tenure of Amina Mohamed, there were many conferences in this country than any other time in history of the world. That's the time we had almost all the presidents of who is who in the world visit this country, including President Obama himself, and many other presidents who came over here during her tenure. I mean, she has an excellent diplomatic career that you can take anywhere and it will be appreciated. But again, when you look at now what is at hand, and that is World Trade Organization, there are a lot of things that might work against her, and I'll love her very much, but there are a lot of things that might work against her. One of those very things is, one, she competed for the position of AU and she did not get it. The reason why she did not get it is because the countries around us were not mobilized well enough to vote for us. And just see what has happened at the Security Council, where the countries around us did not vote for us. They didn't even, and that tells you that they don't like us. If they didn't like us to be at the Security Council, in fact, if it were not for the superpowers, we would not have been there. But the countries, our neighbors that we interact with every day, that we depend on and depends on us in terms of our business and trade, did not vote for us for that reason. And so if that is to carry the day, then there could be a very high possibility that they're not going to vote for us again. When you look at also World Trade Organization, we have Dr. Mukisa Kitui, who is holding a huge position there. And the other African nations are already saying, look, why do we have two powerful people coming from the same country working for World Trade Organization? And so, the other nations are starting to feel that maybe perhaps Kenyans are trying to get very greedy. But I don't think we are greedy. I think there's an opportunity that is out there, and we are sending our best to check this position, because those individuals, even Dr. Mukisa Kitui, is one of the best brains you have in Africa, and he's rightfully holding that position. Amina Mohamed will rightfully hold that position because of her credentials and her ability to perform well. And also, as Zeta have said, we found ourselves in the Security Council. We found ourselves at the IMF now at a top position, and Kenyans are in all these global organizations. We seem to find ourselves there.
Let me ask this. I know our biggest interest would be, of course, to witness the win of Amina Mohamed, but equally, a win of, say, Nigeria and anything would be a win for Africa, because it will be the first time that Africa gets this particular seat. Do you suppose, one, of course, there's going to be a split of vote based on, or maybe there's a split of interest based on the African countries, that some of them will support Amina, some of them will support Nigeria and all this, Then the question would be, is Africa its biggest enemy? Because amid this split, if they do not speak in the same voice, there are likelihoods that Africa again is going to miss out on this.
I see a high possibility of one of them winning, either Dr. Konjo or Amina Mohamed winning this thing. And that would be a plus to Africa. My biggest fear is what you just said. If we go in this thing split, this is an international position. It is not an African position. If we are split, somebody else is going to take it. So I think we better look at ourselves inwardly as an African continent and say, we don't want to lose this position. Now, if we don't want to lose this position, is Amina Mohammed having a better chance to kill this rat or not? And if is Dr. Konjo having a better position to kill this rat or not? And then the other guys pull back and say, let's send our own best to hold this position. And this position has never been held by a lady, and it's never been held by an African. So it's a huge position. We stand a huge position to get this position. But we have to agree as a continent, because what we are seeing here is a fight between two powerful countries, and that is Nigeria and Kenya. And let me tell you, we've fought this war, not just for now, even social media and Twitter and many other places.
There's the powerhouses of Africa, yes?
If we are still going to fight this war, we might just lose it. My point is, and my advice to these two beautiful, powerful women, is let them look at themselves inwardly and say, who has a better chance? Let's support that person.
We've seen a scenario where I remember at some point in time, AU endorsing Kenya for the Security Council seat, and there was that feel that Djibouti, is not African enough to just say, let's step aside and endorse Kenya and equally push Kenya. So in this case, do you foresee a scenario whereby maybe there will be a preferred candidate, or the AU will endorse a certain candidate, and at this particular point, then maybe one of them might just decide to say, okay, let me step aside and let go? And I think this has happened also on the United Nations, World Tourism, of course, aspect, where at some point in time, I remember it was in 2017, if my memory serves me right, we had two candidates for this particular position, one from Zimbabwe, another one from Seychelles. And the Seychelles candidate decided that they're not going to step down for Zimbabwe, who had been endorsed by the African Union, a majority of African countries. And because it was a global position, then again, Africa lost this one, Anita.
Absolutely. Linda, just like you've cited that example, I also remember when we were doing elections for the AU chair, we had Amina again, and we also had
Yes, Musa Muhammad Faki. Okay, well, there were Africans, most of them then, because it was the AU chair. But then again, there was so much, what I think Agwanda has brought on board, the fact that our neighbors ourselves could not support us. What would be the problem of integration? What is it that, bars us from integrating as, regions or even as Africans?
Absolutely. There has been a huge problems, even when you look at our neighbors. We... for a very long time, we have not been on a very good page, especially when it comes to trade, and others feel like they're sidelined, or there's a lot of underlying tensions even when you look at the East African community. So we definitely hope that Africa, of course, is going to, support the best candidate, and we hope that Africa can develop a mechanism of how best we can rally, for the best candidate to win. And
yes, we're crossing fingers that we win. Yes, all the best to Amina Mohammed. Absolutely. Amid everything, we just cross fingers that she's not going to lose this one for the second time. And leaving that aside, Michael Agwanda, Wiper has found a safe haven in Jubilee Party?
Correct. This is a smart way to tell Honorable Raila that politics, you might be a professor of politics, but your juniors could be much, much smarter than you.
Yeah.
Remember that the person who had a handshake first was Honorable Raila with Kenyatta. That means he severed a relationship between him and NASA.
Right.
And when he did that, what he did not know is the person he was having a handshake with was actually eyeing the very orphans that he had left behind. Those orphans have now been reached by the very person, on the other hand, and are now working with him, and that is Jubilee. What does that mean to Raila, unfortunately? If anything happens at this BBI and the handshake is severed and that relationship is severed, then Raila will come back to a team of people that ordinarily would support him, and more so leaders in NASA. And by the time he will be looking on that side of NASA, they will all be gone. and he will be alone in the field. He will try to start recruiting other leaders, because those leaders will already be with the individual that they had an handshake with.
Are you trying to say that there are likelihoods that ANC will cross the bridge to this other side also?
There is no permanent enemy in politics. And I can tell you for free, if that is what it will take, they will move if they will be promised something. We've seen parties merge before. My only problem is this will be unfortunate for Honorable Raila if ANC also crosses over to Jubilee. Yeah. And if they cross over to Jubilee and then Raila severes his relationship for whatever reason, we're not expecting that to happen, but it's a possibility that it can happen. And if he comes back home and he finds the ANC gone, Wiper gone, he finds Chama Mashinani gone, and then Raila will be actually trying and really will be a lone ranger in amongst his peers, not just his peers, but the people that he's worked with to bring change in this country. Remember, it takes a team of people, trusted individuals, and also leaders to lead their communities, because this country is tribal. Yeah. And the political situation in this country is also very tribal, and every tribe seems to have their own kingpin in one or the other. We might, assume them, you might not respect them, but I can tell you they hold a lot amongst the tribal community. And so my only prayer is that this handshake will go all the way through, and that the relationship between Uhuru Kenyatta, who is Jubilee, and Raila Odinga will not disappear. But if that happens, then Raila will find it. He will have to, I'm not saying it's very difficult, but he will have to work twice as harder as before for him to claim the position of president of this country. Because the people ordinarily that has trusted on him, that worked with him, that he worked with, will not be there, because he will already be with Jubilee government.
All right. Okay. Well, that's an interesting one. So in this particular case, then one would ask, who is to laugh? Who will have the last laughs? Because for the longest of time upon the handshake, there's been questions on who exactly is going to laugh last on this one. Who's playing who? Is it Raila who's playing the president? Is it the president who's playing Raila? Is it Jubilee at large, of course, and including the deputy president now that, of course, there's been proper segregation that, are playing Raila? Just who is playing who in this scenario? And who is going to be the opposition? Who's going to keep the government in check if everyone else is joining the government?
You see, that's why we have the problem, Linda. We have no opposition now. We have an opposition that has been swallowed by the government. That means they cannot defend the people. They cannot speak against the government, unfortunately. What Honorable Raila Odinga has done very well, he has put the government in check for years, And again, Linda, we're in a place where Raila is aging, and we have to agree with that. And these are natural phenomena that must take place. And if he's aging, then maybe Honorable Raila must be asking himself, but who is going to take over for me? Because I've done my job.
Oops, we've lost Michael Agwanda. Then we're left with no option but to come to you. Looking at the politics of the day in the country, who's playing who is going to keep the government check, honestly, if everyone else is moving towards the government? We're not saying that it's a must that we have a person who's opposing, but looking at things in the country, they're not in the best of shape. So at least there needs to be someone who's going to be a watchdog, who's going to ensure that he speaks on behalf of Wanjiku. So who is going to do that?
Absolutely. Linda, I can say there's been a lot of political awareness among people, especially the youth. And of course, there has been a heightened participation in the democratic processes. And with this awareness, there's a better chance for, of course, people to
get involved
and address the issues. And of course, this also gives a chance to us to, of course, we're better leaders than, of course, we can choose. And
all right.
And Linda, there are a lot of options. There are a lot of good people who are capable of leading this country and steering us through prosperity.
Something that maybe has been overlooked for the longest of time. And again, we go back to you, Michael Agwenda. And Anita raises this pertinent point, says that at least there's been so much involvement coming from the youth and the people of matters politics. Do you suppose that we, as the people, Wanjiko, Atieno, we are capable of putting the government in check in the event that we realize that the politicians have decided to go their way and, address their interests first?
Fortunately not, because our strong civil society has been dealt with a blow.
A blow, yeah.
The international community is no longer supporting the civil society for changes and in good governance. That is the biggest mover in the 90s and in the 80s and early 2000s. We are not having an international community that is proactively involved in changing the leadership of Africa with the people that are non-corrupt, with the people that want to make changes. Hence the reason why we are having the same clique of people, old folks, still running the show. Yeah. How I wish the international community would come back again and support the civil society. And even if it's not international community, that the civil society in this country would wake up again to their slumber, from their slumber, and start doing what they want for this country and start championing for the change of this country. Unfortunately, what the government, in different succession have done in this country is they hit on the head of civil society so hard that the civil society no longer has a voice, unfortunately. And so the only person, and they've also reign on the religious group also, but to a point where the religious group also has very little voice in this country. And so you are left with only the political class that is telling Kenyans what to do. The political class that indeed, stealing votes left, right, and center. An IBC that cannot officially release a result because that result is being held in France by OT Morpho. We're still having an IBC that even officiated an election that was taken to court, and the court said it was not done properly, still sitting in the office today. And as it is, if you look at Kriegler reports, basically Kriegler says do not change the IBC officials or the electoral officials 2 years to the election. You know what I mean? But they're still sitting there. And so you're hoping that there will be angels in 2022 and conduct a very fair and free election in 2022. That cannot happen. We are actually brewing animosity. We are brewing uncertainty. We are brewing political conflict in 2022 if we don't make these changes. But you ask a question: who is playing who in this card? Linda, I can only tell you that unfortunately, Kenyan politicians has been riddled with a lot of corruption and a lot of deceit. And everywhere you go in the political circle, there is deceit. And no one says the truth. They say this, but they mean something else. If the opposition think that it is their time to eat with the government, I can tell you for free that they're the ones that will be shortchanged, period.
Whoa. All right, that's an interesting view to wind up on. Thank you so much, Michael Agwenda and Anita Bai, for the great insights. So in this case, someone should watch out who is going to should change who. But as, of course, Agwenda puts it, it's clear and evident that we know who's going to be short-changed. But time will be the person or the point where, of course, we get to learn about all this. Indeed, as they would say, time will tell. And on that particular note, we wind up on this current affairs segment as we cross over to the lifestyle segment. Remember, we're all about art. It's going to be an interesting session. You do not want to miss out on this. So keep tweeting, keep sending those messages. I can see most of them coming on board in regards to politics. We sample them later on the last segment. After this break, we're right back with more.